now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Prospect Power Hour featuring me, Joseph Young, and my co-host, Ryan Lippert. How are you doing, Ryan?
For or weekend, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very exciting. It's exciting to finally get football underway for the most part. There were a bunch of good games, like Georgia, Clemson. That was a defensive battle all the way through. And Ohio State, Minnesota. That was a shootout kind of, and a bunch of good games Sunday night. Of course, Notre Dame against Florida State. That was a good one. It went to overtime where Notre Dame kicked the game-winning field goal. And Monday night was a little bit of a downer, but Ole Miss dominated throughout. So a bunch of games sprinkled here and there, like FCS. There were 6 FCS over FBS wins. So, you never know on week one because some teams are more rusty than others.
Yeah, it was for sure. It was a good football. Clemson. I was talking with a buddy of mine. I was like, wow. I was like, I wonder how many people that ever the game would have ended in a 10-7 ball game. I mean, Georgia's defense, they're looking like Alabama best defense in the country. I mean, it's left to be seen, but they looked stout on that. The point, they looked good week one, and then UCLA, man, they looked good. Took over and won that game, and like you said, Ole Miss, like they're firing all Corral. He looked like a quarterback that's going to be worth watching this year. And took that one from him, but that was a great game as well. So nice little.
Yeah, there's also my mind is blanking right now. It's been a long day. There's also Michigan State, Northwestern. That was a pretty good game. Kenneth Walker of Northwestern, the running back, he just went the hell off, 264 yards. So he was a transfer. So that's pretty good for the Spartans. And of course, Nebraska, Illinois. That was last week, but yeah, that was really fun. Looking back on it, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, the Hokies got it done at home at Lane Stadium. So that was pretty fun. Enter Sandman's probably one of the best introductions in college football.
Oh, so, by far.
Yeah. Not to mention, jump around at Wisconsin during the fourth quarter. That's one of the best traditions in college football as well. So I missed it.
It was fun to see.
Yeah.
See that. Speaking of that, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, not a good first look for Sam Howell.
No.
Though, and they weren't looking too hot either. So we'll see if they can rebound. They've still got some.
Yeah. Yeah, Mac Brown looks like he aged in like 50 years in one hour. That game, it's just it is. I don't know what happened. It's just North Carolina didn't have their best game, I guess, and Virginia Tech they came out ready to play. So
It looks like we got an exciting week ahead of us in football this weekend. So
yeah.
Also, we have some kind of breaking news in college football broke over the past week. They're saying that could happen, be announced by Friday. So, call it like largely changing.
Yeah, the Big 12 isn't quite dead yet. uh, so I think it's like UCF, BYU, Cincinnati, and one other American school.
Houston.
I can remember Houston. Yeah, it's a logical fit for Houston because they're one of the premier of AAC schools that's also local to Big 12. So that's used to be a stepping stone job for for Kevin Sumlin back in the day. He used that to go to A&M and so on and so forth. And BYU, they're one of the top independent programs in the country, and they had a really good year last year. So yeah, it makes sense because there's not much room in this new playoff environment where independents can do well unless you're Notre Dame.
But yeah, I'm curious to see how it pans out. Good their first game. I mean, they did play Miami of Ohio, but Desmond Ritter lit it up. But be interesting down the road to see them join that conference.
Yeah, it's I think it's going to be interesting for a couple of years without Texas and Oklahoma, being the lead dogs in the conference. So it's going to be a free for all, I think.
Yeah. Moving on to this week, we get a big matchup between the Ohio State Buckeyes, who looked like against Minnesota, and then they played the Oregon Ducks this weekend. What are you thinking about?
I don't know. I think it's going to be at least the Buckeyes have at least 2 touchdowns, at least. For hopefully Kayvon Thibodeau plays this edge number 2022 edge number 1 by far. So he suffered an ankle injury last game against Fresno State. He sat out the second half, I guess, presumably to get ready for this one. So hopefully he's ready. Because Anthony Brown, the Ducks quarterback, didn't look too good for most of the game. But it's just we'll see. Ohio State's loaded, and it's at home and in front of 100,000 fans, and I don't know, all the top recruits. I just hope Oregon keeps it competitive.
Yeah, like you said, Ohio State, they're loaded. I think unfortunately for Minnesota, that Ibrahim go down. Looks like he's probably going to miss the rest of the season. And they've got probably the 2 best wide receivers in the country right now. 3-headed monster running back, it looks like now, and no defense. He's hoping for Thibodeau can play, but offensively for Oregon, I just think Anthony Brown and off the edge, and they got a nice secondary too at Ohio State. So Oregon, they're going to have to put up some points against Ohio State, and honestly, I just don't see where it comes from. Take off and have a monster game. It'll probably be a 2 touchdown game.
Yes, Oregon defensively, they have to show up, namely Noah Sewell, Pina's brother. He's a sophomore this year, so he was a 5-star recruit, and so we mentioned Thibodeau. And also in the secondary, they have Mikhail Wright. He's a star cornerback. He played well last year, and he's also a dynamic return man. So there's special teams value. He's a junior this year, so I believe he's eligible to go pro, which I believe he will. And then Verone McKinley, the star safety / cornerback. He's been there for over 5 years. He's a super senior. He's improved every year. I give him maybe a day 2 grade at this point, pending how the season plays out. Also, the running back core, CJ Verdell, Travis Dye, they're back. The offensive line, they're work in progress. So I think the offensive line is the biggest key for the Ducks, because Ohio State defensively, the defensive line, they're stupid loaded, with Zach Harrison, all the linebackers. So it's gonna be it won't be like 45-40 type of shootout. Maybe 28 to maybe 17 type of game.
Yeah. Moving on from that one, we got another game at Tennessee versus Pittsburgh. Both teams are middle of their charges. Both came off a win against kind of small school. Tennessee, they got a few guys. They got our man Roy Countryman, his guy Joe Milton at quarterback. Yeah, hitting from dual threat guy, transfer out of Michigan, so he'll get his first test against the FS duo at running back with Jabari Small, who's a sophomore. Actually got him a little bit thought he'd be an immediate impact player at Tennessee, and so far he has. And then he shares a to let the team rush. And then they got a offensive guard, Cade Mays, transferred from Georgia. He came in as a little so those are some guys on the interior to watch for them, O-line. And then defensively, they got he's very good at run support from what I've seen so far, physical guy. So that'll be a guy to watch. I say Tennessee fans, they looked all right against Bowling Green, but I don't buy this thing. But then again, they're playing a team in Pittsburgh who isn't proving much either. A lot at quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Now he's probably going to be a day 2 guy, but he plays with swagger to him. He very good improv ability, escape the pocket, and make something out of that huge arm. But he's got those leadership skills that I love to see, and I think himself this season.
Yeah, like you said, it's gonna be one of those lower tier, SEC versus ACC matchups, where it's gonna be not cheesable bad, but it's gonna be really it's gonna be not like your offensive shootout or anything. Joe Milton showed a little bit of improvement, but not much. But they didn't play anybody really spectacular. Bowling Green is Bowling Green. And, Pittsburgh got a little bit of a test last week, but, Kenny Pickett, hopefully he's healthy, because he took a monster hit last week. That was borderline dirty. So hopefully he's healthy, out of the concussion protocol, because that was a really big hit he took. So I think Tennessee wins by it's at home, so in Neyland, and the Pittsburgh coach, was talking mess, saying that Neyland wasn't going to fill up the stadium. So we'll see. I think Tennessee by 10.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big game. If Pickett's able to play, I'd actually take Pittsburgh in this one in a close game. But if he's not, I think on his availability and how healthy he is. On that game, SEC school in this one, Texas A&M. They're playing against Pac-12 Colorado. I don't think they're going to win the SEC like some analysts have. They got a ton of talent. They got a new quarterback, Haynes King, filling in for Kellen. It wasn't a huge test, but we'll see against this Colorado team. Colorado's got a pretty defense, so got probably to be a top 3 or 4 running back in the country as they and who receiver probably get tested as some running back in the draft process. He's kind of a doer. Kenyon Green, one of the top interior offensive linemen, and Jalen who he's conversation for tight end 1. He's a bigger, lankier tight end. I like him a lot as a pass catcher in that offense. And then defensively, I like a lot. He's joined by Jaden Peavy. And they got a couple guys in the secondary for a while now. So they got some veterans back there on the backside as well.
Yeah, Colorado has a couple of guys. Nate Landman's back for his super senior year. It seems like Colorado has a bunch of them this year. Of course, Sam Neuer, he transferred to Oregon State, so he's no longer there. He was a safety that turned quarterback last year. So last year, Colorado was a bit of a program in transition because Mel Tucker, the Michigan State coach, left Colorado during the early spring. So Carl Durrell had to step in last minute. But surprisingly, Colorado had an undefeated season last year until they lost a couple games late. So it depends on what Colorado does. But A&M, I think as for A&M, I think most Aggies fans are like, Haynes King is a new Johnny Manziel. I'm like, oh, tap the brakes there a little bit, but he's not that yet. Jalen Weidermeyer, he's tight end 1 in my grades. So Anaya Smith, the hybrid Kadarius Toney type of guy, and Isaiah Spiller, he might be running back 1 next in this class. But, that's a loaded class, so that might be a loaded statement at this point. But, we'll see how it turns out. But it's in Denver, so it's a road game for A&M, a home game. It's a mile. You never know how the mile high will affect the players' lungs and whatnot that are not used to it. So, we'll see. I think A&M wins this by 14.
Yeah, Colorado, they got some fresh faces. Brandon Lewis, he's a freshman, so this will be his first defense. And then they got another Chenault, a receiver. I mean, that worked out pretty well for them. For himself out there, and then they got Jared Broussard at running back, who's a sophomore, who's been A&M pulling away with it, like you said, about probably a couple scores. And we got TCU versus California. I don't think they hang with TCU really. Cal, then TCU, they've got Max Dugan coming back at quarterback. But he seems to be able to make big plays to help TCU pull out games. I think Spielman, we'll see what he can do there at the fresh start. Got that guy Albina in early stages of the draft process, so he should be at least a day 2 guy there. And I think they got pretty aggressive corners in Travius Hodges-Tomlinson and Noah Daniels. So those will be the scholars. They'll give him some fits.
Yeah, Cal didn't look good last week. So I think Dugan, hopefully he's over his heart issue that sidelined him last year for the most part. He came back healthy last year during the fall, but during the summertime, it was discovered they had a little bit of heart issues. So you just never know with heart issues. But like you said, JD Spielman as well. I have Spielman. He's a Nebraska transfer that's there for his second season. He's a super senior this year. Obina I have a day 3 grade on him so far. And the secondary, Hodges Tomlinson. You know that TCU has a history of turning out secondary players that are really good. So I have faith in Gary Patterson, coaching them up, developing them. So, Kayon Stewart, he's also another defensive back that's there. So I think, Cal has they struggled against Nevada last week, and they ultimately lost to Carson Strong, QB1, 2022. I'm going to put it out there, 2022 QB1. But, they struggled on defense a lot, and then it's just offensively they're a mess. Garbers, their quarterback, he's not that good, and their running back there was largely stifled. Marcel Yancey didn't do too well last year. Last week, Remigio didn't do too well last week, but that could be symptomatic of the quarterback having issues. So it's in Fort Worth. So I think TCU is going to win by 14 due to the offensive problems Cal is having and the offensive firepower that TCU has coming back. So, it's going to be – what do you think about it?
I think their talent takes over. I think they could win by even more than 2 scores in this one. And I will on the hard he's one after how he looked against Cal last week. I think he's gonna have some close competition so far from this. But Carson Strong right now, he's probably sitting at my QB1. Big time game. Got Iowa State and Iowa. They to beat them, and Iowa looked very, very good. But they're facing an Iowa State team that's sneakishly stacked, man. And they got my running back one right now, Breece Hall, back as well. Get above the ground, and they got 2 other pass catchers, Xavier Hutchinson, a wide receiver, and Charles top conversation this year. And they got a couple guys on the interior O-line and will be drafted at some point this year. And defensively, they're led by just a to call him. He's all over the field at the inside linebacker spot. And then they got Will great work. They're pretty well balanced on both sides of the ball. Their offense is very high power. For.
Yeah, I think Brees Hall might be RB2 right now, RB3, and he's in that conversation. I don't think he's RB1 just quite yet, even though last year proved that he was. But it's gonna be interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of Purdy right now. He should have declared last year, but he came back. It is what it is. So, but is yeah, Charlie Corlar is probably my tight end 2 at the moment. If Michael Mayer was eligible this year, unfortunately he is not. Uh, Kolar is probably a decent tight end 2 at the next level. He won't be that star, Jimmy Graham type, Gronk type at the next level. But I think he has a long career ahead of him as a tight end 2. But maybe tight end 3 potential. But as for Iowa, they have a bunch of guys on the line as usual. I mean, it's Iowa. Tyler Lindenbaum is probably the favorite to win the Remington Award. He's one of the best centers in the class. I can't say his name. Spencer Petras, excuse me. He's not the greatest, most physically gifted quarterback out there. He's an Iowa quarterback, just turn around, hand the ball off. Tyler Goodson, he's a decently sized running back for Iowa. He's better than Mikhail Sargent, who is undrafted, who made the Tennessee Titans roster. Congratulations, Mikhail. Good job. So Goodson, I have a day 3 grade on him right now. Maybe 4th, 5th round. If somebody wants, a change of pace back at that next level, 3rd down back, he's going to be good for that. So defensively, Iowa, Jack Campbell, their star linebacker, he's been there forever. It seems like, like most Iowa guys, they've been there like 7-8 years. it seems so. I think this is probably one of the biggest Cyhawk Trophy games we've ever seen in our lifetimes. Really, it's in Ames this year, I believe it is. Isn't it in Ames or Iowa City? Yeah, I think it's in. Let me check. Let me correct that before.
Iowa State.
Ames. So that Ames is a sneaky tough place to play. Especially with Iowa State being good. If this might be the last Cyhawk game for Matt Campbell, their Iowa State head coach. You never know, but it looks like he's there for the long term. So yeah, I think both teams are equally talented. I think so. It's going to be dependent on the quarterback play. I would trust Purdy more since he's done it, been there, done that. But I think Iowa wins it at least by 10.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a back and forth kind of grind out game. Quarter offense come together and take this one. I'd say Iowa State by touchdown. But moving on, we got an interesting little SEC versus Big 12 action down south, and they got KJ Jefferson back at quarterback, and then they got who I think could for top tier Treylon Burks. Coming back, he's a bigger body receiver. I love his of his report this year with blitz, and I'm just excited to see his season unfold. Also, to really shine much in the national spotlight, but I think he's going to put some people on notice this year. And they're running behind a couple good offensive linemen themselves. They got Myron Cunningham and defensively they got 2 studs at inside linebacker in one of the games that it's perfect for a inside linebacker bumper pool. So those two guys will be running back, young talented running back in Bijan Robinson for Texas. So that
Yeah, this is an old timey Southwest Conference rivalry. If you guys know from way back when SMU got the death penalty way back in the day before my era. Obviously, because I wasn't born yet. I'm not that old. So yeah. Speaking of Texas, Hudson Card looked good. For his first start. I thought Casey Thompson was going to win the job, but Card looked really decent. I'll say for his first start. Of course, Bijan Robinson. He's the star running back. I think he's in contention for RB1. He has potential to be, I'll say, bigger Demetric Felton, or I'd say, best case scenario, he turns into Alvin Kamara. I'm not ready to give him Kamara comparisons just yet because no one's that good. But Jordan Whittington, he's a receiver. He's really good. He's one of their leading receivers for Texas. Joshua Moore, he's a redshirt junior this year. He's the second leading receiver on that team. Of course, Rashawn Johnson, he's a quarterback convert to running back. And it's offensively, Texas is loaded. It's not like they're out of weapons or anything. Of course, they have a good offensive line. Denzel Okafor's back. Junior Angelo's back still. So Jake Majors, he's back. Defensively, they're still good. Defensive tackle, they have Tavondre Sweat. He's back in action. Of course, a star linebacker who might be considered edge 2, edge 3 in that range. DeMarvion Overshawn. Yeah, he doesn't have he's not Thibodeau level, but he is a tier below that. I'll say that. So, what do you think of Texas secondary?
They're okay. I will say that. Good thing about it is they're young talent. They got some veteran talent as well, but they got some young up and coming talent that I think's gonna push over the hump and get them back on the right track.
They have a freshman receiver Xavier Worthy. He was getting a lot of hype during camp. So we'll see how that turns out. Keviante Dixon, he's still there. Cade Brewer, believe it or not, still there as a super senior. So I think Cards has plenty of weapons. He's not thrown into the fire. Like without weapons or anything. He is Texas. Sarkisian's he's proven to be an elite coordinator. So he's more of a pro style, but he can spread it around. Play a spread option attack. So it's a rivalry game. It's a really old timey rivalry game. It's it's at Arkansas. So our Texas definitely out talents them. So I'll say Texas by 7 because it's a home game for Arkansas, and Coach Sam Pittman, he gets his guys ready to play. And Kendall Briles, he's the offensive coordinator at Arkansas. That's an interesting dynamic between the two, play styles, so to speak. And Brawls likes to go fast, and Pittman likes to go a little slower. So Brawls might tire the Texas defense out a little bit. But I think, I'm going to stick with Texas by 7. I think Overshone has a really good game.
This game's going to be close. I think, as you said, it's a rivalry game. I think both fan bases are going to find a pretty electric stadium to play in. Even for as bad as they've been here lately, they're played other Texas, talent-wise, though, will be the difference here. I think they win close fire, and then I think they'll be tired out at the end. But we got Mississippi State playing against North Carolina State. So far, so they blew out South Florida. But then again, they're every week. They look pretty bad. As you say, I like their running back a lot. It's Donovan Knight. What's it for 160 yards first game? I think he's gonna have a big time the year this year. And they got I've got the offensive tackle for them, man. He's shoot. Oh, here. Udo is his last name. He was just bulldozing people. And but they played Mississippi State well that they had to run the air raid with Leach. Is Leach still there? Mississippi State?
Leach is still there. So,
they didn't. They really didn't. But Will Rogers has stepped in, kind of earned the starting spot fully. Now he threw for, I think, over 300 yards in that first win. And I got a starter. They got a sophomore receiver that looks like he's going to be an up-and-coming talent in the SEC, and Jay and also offensive tackle who's going to be right in the mix for offensive tackle 1. Depending on how his season goes. And then on defense, they got 2 solid corners and a little this week.
Mississippi State, they they struggled against Louisiana Tech last Saturday. I watched bits and pieces of that game where Louisiana Tech led them by like more than 17, and they somehow Mississippi State came back and won that game in the fourth quarter. It was 35-34, the final score. It was, of course, the air raid, they're never out of it. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know about this one. It's at Mississippi State in Starkville. NC State is, they're definitely better. They're definitely more talented, but it's closer in talent than most people think. So I'll say NC State by less than 14.
I agree. I think NC State wins by 7 to 10 points. I want to make a correction. The offense Kim Aquanu, he looked like a stud in that first game. I think he's going to be a name to watch. Moving on, We got Michigan, Washington. The game, Washington took the big upset to Montana, and then looked pretty strong last weekend. So two teams. It's interesting. I didn't think I think they were going to be worth much, and they looked okay last weekend. And in Washington, I thought they were in the Pac-12 hunt and lost to Montana. So found them a quarterback. It looks like Cade McNamara had a pretty good game. He had a catch in that game last week. And they got Hassan Haskins at running back, and who will be a draftable guy this year, and Christopher Hennon on the at the D tackle spot. Yeah, that should be pretty solid on that back end. Then Washington, they got a Dylan to last week. His main guy is going to be Cade Otton, that will be looking to be in that top competition. I got Big Jackson Kirkland, offensive tackle, should be a name to watch as well. And then I got I'm going to butcher his name, Ulu Fashoa, linebacker. And then that were supposed to be pretty high caliber guys, but I mean, their talent just shows. So, they
Yeah, Washington's loss to Montana was a it definitely looked bad for the Pac-12, even though Montana is one of the premier FCS powers, but it's still very it wasn't a good look, I'll say, for Jimmy Lake and his company. Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad loss, but Michigan, unfortunately, they lost Ronnie Bell for the season due to a knee injury, I believe. That's very bad news, sad news. Hopefully he recovers healthy in time for the draft, because he was in the conversation for second round, third round receiver in that range. They played one of the directional Michigan schools, so it was expected to be a blowout, and it was a blowout, so yeah, for the Washington team, the Huskies, their quarterback Dylan Morris, he didn't look good at all. That Sam Hewer, the freshman, the legacy recruit, might step in eventually at some point. Of course, Washington has no receivers left because their main guys are hurt or transferred out from the program. Giles Jackson is pretty much the only receiver of note there in Seattle, and he was a Michigan transfer, so that's kind of a reunion trip for him. Funny enough, Cade Otton, I have him maybe tight end 3 at this point behind Kohler. He's definitely one of the best tight ends. Jackson Kirkland, he's one of the best tackles in the class. He's probably OT 3 or 4 for me at this point. Luke Wattenberg, their center, he's still there. He's a super senior this year. He's probably, if I had to grade centers right now, he's probably center 3 or 4. So defensively is where the money's at for Washington. They have a lot of edge guys, defensive tackles. Ryan Bowman's still there, surprisingly, super senior. Trent McDuffie, the cornerback, he's a former big-time guy, 5-star cornerback. Also, Brendan Riley Hiles, he's an Oklahoma transfer, but Oklahoma didn't really like him for some reason. the fans didn't like him, but he transferred there. He has some issues being in zone. He has some issues speed wise, so we'll see how that turns out. But Asa Turner's the star safety. He's a veteran now, so it's just. I think Washington really out talents Michigan at this point, but the mindset doesn't. I think Michigan is more desperate to win since it's at home at the Big House, and John Harbaugh is fighting, or not John Harbaugh. I'm sorry, John Harbaugh's in Baltimore. Jim Harbaugh he's fighting for his job, so he needs every single win before that big one in November. So I want to say Michigan by 14. It's at home. It's at night. The Big House is going to be rocking, and if the same Washington team that showed up against Montana showed up, it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, that's not about. I didn't know how he went down with injury, but I've been so out of touch with work this week. I did not know he was out. So that sport there is a talent, and but yeah, like you said, if that same Washington team shows up, I think it's going to be a close game, and I think Washington could pull it out if their talent shows up. If their talent doesn't show up, it'll be a little different for Washington to bounce back this week. Next up, we got the Holy Utah. They're looking tough this year. They got Brewer on Tavion Thomas, sophomore running back, who looked solid last week. That came back this year, and then Nick Ford, offensive tackle as well. All drafted greatly. And then on defense, I love their linebacker, Devin Lloyd. He's going to be great instincts. I think he'll be a guy we see drafted first round this year. Could be in the conversation for when
Yeah, it's the Holy War is probably the most fun early rivalry games that we every year. Probably most underrated because it's always fun between the Utes and the Cougars. The linebackers for Utah, they're really good traditionally. Kyle Whittingham's one of the best defensive minds in the game. Utah is a really good development program under him. Charlie Brewer, the Baylor transfer quarterback, he's not in the conversation in the first round right now. That he can play himself there like Zach Wilson did from last year. He probably won't go as high as Wilson, probably most likely. I think Brewer is a second to third round prospect at this point, but if Utah wins the conference and blows up, I think, which they have the potential to do, since they're so very well coached and very experienced. I think Brewer could end up being his ceiling is second round pick right now. But offensively they have Theo Howard, the receiver from UCLA from Oklahoma. He's been all over the map. Burton Covey's still there, so defensively you just expect like 5 or 6 guys to be drafted every year from that program. But BYU, they're not. Of course, Wilson's gone, but they still have their quarterback is still young. I'll say that he didn't look too good against Arizona, even though BYU won, and ultimately at the end, it's just he had his freshman moments. I'll say. Of course, the Nakua brothers, Puka is a Washington transfer. Samson's been there. Samson's, believe it or not, a Holy War transfer that funny enough, those are more common than you think. So of course, Chaz Ayu, the safety from BYU, he's a draftable prospect. So it's not like it's not like Kehlani Sitake's men are without any talent. It's just there might be a little less talented in Utah, but it's the biggest rivalry game, the biggest probably game on the calendar for both teams, and so I think where is it? Oh, I think it's at BYU this year. Is that BYU this year? I think. Yeah.
Let me double check that.
Yeah.
Wanted this.
Yeah, I think it's at BYU this year. Pardon me if it's not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Utah fans. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I think Utah's going to win due to more experienced quarterback and more weapons. I think Utah is going to win by at least 7.
Yeah, you were right. It is a BYU home game. I think BYU, they got a title that takes them for apologies. That'll take some pressure off of that young quarterback. But like I said, you got experience. They got talent. Wins in a close, grinded out match by 7 to 10 points here. I think Utah's like down to the wire there. But that's smart.
Yeah, yeah. I think Lova Edwards Stadium is probably one of the most scenic stadiums in all of college football. It's definitely out there because it's definitely up there because I love the scenery, the stadium scenery, the mountains, the background in the mountains and all that stuff, especially at the mid-afternoon, the sunset. That's a beautiful scene nature wise.
Yeah, for our last matchup on the college football slate this weekend, last matchup, another Pac-12 game with USC and Stanford. USC got talent. I think team beat the Pac-12 title. John Slovis, I like him a lot. I think he could be to the first round. He'll be second round guy. My grade for him is probably that late first, mid round. We got running back Keontae Ingram back there, running back this year, and then they got Drake London at receiver. He's going to be the go-to guy for Slovis. And I think also had an interception last game, so he looked impressive. And then Chris Steele and I did the one and should come back Isaiah Pulamau at safety, so huge or last week due to injury. So that'll be a fun game to watch. Should be the key to that offense. They don't really have much at quarterback, and behind him they then got edge Thomas Booker that should be a draftable guy this year. So Stanford's got limited. I think they'll keep up USC in this game.
Yeah, Stanford is they got embarrassed at Jerry World this past weekend. Yeah, they get embarrassed by Kansas State. It wasn't close, and that's and Tanner McKee is going to be the starting quarterback in this contest over Jack West due to West's inconsistencies, I'll say. USC is definitely more talented, I'll say that. It's not even a close contest on paper, but they don't play games on paper. So it's just Stanford's on the way down, I believe. It's not, they're not your. They'll be lucky to finish third in the Pac-12 North, given the Pac-12 North last week didn't have a good showing at all. So they might not do too good this week either, given the matchups. But as for USC, of course, they have Slovis, who's being hyped up as a first-round quarterback. I don't see it yet, but I can see it a little bit. But he has to be more consistent. Keontae Ingram's pretty good. Vave Malapai, he's still there. He had a pretty good game last week. Of course, Drake London, he's their superstar receiver. Brew McCoy, he's suspended from the team for domestic issues. So that's a big red flag there, especially in today's world. So their tight end, Michael Trigg, he's a star freshman. So he's gonna be a guy to watch for a couple of years from now. Their offensive line is not as good as in years past, but that's a low bar to clear. Drake Jackson, as you said, the edge rusher, he's clearly edge 2 in the conference. He might be edge 2 nationally when things are all said and done. Corey Foreman, he is a freshman recruit, 5-star recruit, the number 1 ranked edge rusher in the class, actually. So that was a really good get for them. So unfortunately for USC, Jordan Iosefa, he retired due to medical issues. So prayers go out to him that he finds success in whatever he does in life. Of course, secondary, Isaac Taylor Stewart. He's been there forever, it seems. He's a redshirt junior academically. So Syer Wright, he's another star freshman. So that's Isaiah Polamalu. He's a cousin of Troy Polamalu. So it looks like the instincts transfer over to the bloodlines. So he's probably I want to say the best safety in the class. I mean, that may be a hot take later down the road, but I'm willing to put my neck out there for it.
If his bloodline shows,
yeah. I think USC wins this one going away by at least 18.
Said and done, I'd say USC by at least 20. That about wraps it up for our games. This slate, Pac-12, man, it's looking pretty close. Who do you think is you're the out west guy? Who would you say is your favorite right now in that conference?
Right now, the north side's such a mess. I want to say Oregon, just because they're the favorite. It's in their bloodline to win it because they've been the champions back-to-back, division champions, even though last year they technically didn't win the division, but they had to go to the championship game because Washington had COVID problems. But it's in their history. It's in their blood to win it. I think Oregon's favorite in the north. Of course, that one game, the rivalry game, that's going to be probably determine the division. In the South, I'd probably say the South is an absolute war. I want to say right now on paper, I want to say USC because they're so dominant. But Utah and Arizona State is probably going to give them a run for their money, especially Utah, since Whittingham is probably the most underrated coaches in America right now. So I want to say Oregon USC matchup again. They don't meet during the regular season, unfortunately. So I think Oregon comes out on top if they get their quarterback play in order. But let me run down through the times so nobody misses it. Looks through a TV guide, misses it. I think. Oh yes, Oregon at Ohio State is going to be noon Eastern on Fox. That's 9 a.m. for you East Coasters, so that's going to be really early. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, ESPN at noon. Texas A&M, Colorado, 3:30 on Fox. That's at Denver Broncos home stadium. Cal at TCU, that's 3:30 ESPNU. The Cy-Hawk Trophy game, 4:30 on ABC. So the mid-afternoon slate's pretty loaded. Texas and Arkansas, 7 p.m. ESPN. NC State at Mississippi State, 7 p.m. ESPN2. And, of course, the night game, the big primetime game, Washington at Michigan, 8 p.m. ABC. Holy War, 10:15 p.m. ESPN. Pac-12 After Dark, Stanford at USC, 10:30 on Fox. So it's a pretty loaded slate, top to bottom. You'll be multi-screening all the way throughout the day. So, like I watched a Hawaii game last Sunday morning. It ended at like 4 a.m. I was like, screw it, I went to bed. So, do you have any other? Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on NFL season?
Yeah, but like you said, full slate of we watch game play Missouri. Luckily, it's a night game, so I'll get to see a lot of that early action. But I'm going to be constantly good games. I'm going to be missing out of watching live. Yeah, NFL. I'm excited for college and NFL to finally be back. Finally get to wake up and watch my Pittsburgh Steelers. And we got in Dallas kicking it off tomorrow. I'm very, very excited for the NFL.
Yeah, Will Levis might be the best quarterback in Kentucky history before too long. I'm sorry. Maybe Penn State chose the wrong quarterback.
We had Tim Couch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he won the Heisman. Maybe Penn State chose the wrong quarterback this time. Maybe.
At least our offense.
Yeah. Kentucky, I have them third place in the East, 9 wins, I think. Their defense is going to carry them a lot, but with some luck, they might beat Florida and get second place. The Florida hasn't killed Kentucky in a while, so it's been close a couple of years. So it's not like blowout city or anything. But I digress. That's another show for another day. But NFL wise, I'm finally glad it's back. I think Tampa is gonna maybe keep Dallas in the game for a couple of quarters, maybe. But as for the Steelers, pay TJ Watt, please, so we don't have to hear about it all year long. Titans.
It's coming. Yeah. I think it's coming in a couple of days.
Yeah. As for the Titans, we have the Cardinals at home. So, that's going to be a shootout with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins coming to Nashville. So, that's going to be really close. So, a lot of good games this weekend, thankfully, for NFL-wise. So, we don't have to, hope and pray for a college game to show up on Sunday. Yeah, the Patriots and the Dolphins. That should be a good one. Tua versus Mac. So yeah, it's a full slate. So I'm gonna be up until like 3 a.m. watching Pac-12, and then taking a quick little nap and get ready for Sunday morning. So yeah, I'm glad to do it. It's Pac-12 After Dark. the best tradition in all of college football. So, do you have any other closing thoughts?
Now, like I said, I'm just very excited to have all football.
Yeah.
It's great to have. Hopefully, we all hope COVID holds out for us. We're able to get a normal season this year. It was great last weekend seeing, like we said, all the like fans jump around and just pack stadiums. We love to see that. It feels like football. And hopefully we'll be able to keep that.
Yeah, it's just of course, not to mention Florida State. Their Doak Campbell Stadium is one of the best venues in all of college football. I'm sorry if I'm being homer, but it's when Doak is packed and rocking like that. It's special. It's really special. It's unfortunate Florida State didn't win, but we're on the road back, I think.
Yeah.
So that wraps up the show for today. Ryan, your social shout outs?
Follow me everywhere. At Lippert42 on all social medias. Got reports and occasional articles there, and then I also write for Steel City Underground during the season. Check on it as well. But that's it. That's where you can find me. Pretty simple to find.
Of course, my socials are 2 Blitz on Twitter and on Instagram. And that's 2 O's in the Yoon. And also, we're also in the process of looking for an editor. So if you any listeners out there that are good at editing stuff, please let us know. Message me, email me, and whatnot. Please. Yeah. So that wraps up for the show today for the third episode of the Prospect Power Hour. Ryan Lippert and Chelsea Young. So have a good one. Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Yes.